After stopping Uriel's schemes in the palace, Princess Eldria begins uncovering the dark secrets left behind by the original princess. She learns that the former Eldria was secretly involved with smugglers supplying drugs and even purchasing enslaved youths from the conquered land of Vilad. Determined to break this cruel cycle, she secretly buys the slaves to save them. At the same time, political tensions grow. Uriel continues manipulating events. Rumors about the princess spread across the palace, and the returning war hero Iklot Physis heads straight to meet Eldria. When the maid finally opens the door, she sees the lady lying in bed. At this moment, the main character thinks she barely made it. Fortunately, Drisi acted quickly and managed to change her clothes. Iklot kneels and greets Her Highness. Then he says that he is pleased to report that her order has been carried out. Hearing this, the main character realizes that it was him that the former princess tried to get rid of by sending him to war. But this man not only survived, he also returned as a true hero. The lady extends her hand, and he respectfully kisses it. At that moment, the girl realizes that she has never experienced anything like this before. Now she finally understands that she is standing before Iklot Physis himself. She cannot understand how he is able to kiss the hand of the woman who sent him to his death. The girl quietly says that he is alive. The man calmly replies that he is, because he has returned to her. The princess notes to herself that she has never met a man with such a confident and commanding gaze. After a short pause, she says that she is glad he has returned. In the evening, Nadrik looks closely at the lady and asks what is wrong with her. Then he cautiously asks if she is upset about something. She asks if she really looks that way and asks him not to worry, because she is just a little lost in thought. The guy says he heard about this man's return to the palace. Then he asks if he has hurt her feelings. She calmly replies that nothing of the sort has happened. At this moment, the girl thinks that, having gotten involved in this game, she feared Iklot the most. Information about him was contradictory, and it was impossible to understand what kind of person he was. But she was sure that he had every reason to hate the princess. Now Rhea begins to have doubts. After meeting him in person, she felt neither hatred nor contempt in him. But the question remains whether he can be trusted. Iklot informs the lady that there is a traitor in the palace, and he must be exposed as soon as possible. Upon hearing this, the main character does not understand who exactly he means. There are already enough dangerous people in the palace. Iklot asks to be allowed to take care of this matter. Her Highness asks what exactly he intends to do. The man calmly repeats that there is a traitor in the palace, and he would like to expose him. But for that, he needs her permission. The girl realizes that she asked a completely different question. She was interested in what he would do with the traitor after capturing him. She doesn't know how to answer. Besides, it occurs to her that this might be a new intrigue, possibly even related to Uriel. Rhea understands that if she refuses now, she will most likely never find out anything. Therefore, she allows him to do as he sees fit. The man immediately replies that he will start searching right away. The main character realizes that she is now in a dangerous situation. The rumors about the purchase of slaves turned out to be true, and there is also the problem with drugs. But if Iklot really takes her side, everything could change dramatically. Eldria asks Nadrika if he knows anything about Aiden Frank. He asks her in surprise what she is talking about. Then the lady clarifies whether he knows where she used to secretly leave the palace before she lost her memory. The young man replies that he only knows one thing. Sometimes she would go out to get medicine. But he doesn't know where exactly. The lady asks if he took them with her. The young man replies that she never gave him these medicines. Hearing this, the lady thinks that at least this is one piece of good news. The guy suddenly points out that their lips have not touched once today. Hearing this, she immediately kisses him. Rhea tells the young man how good it is to have him nearby. He is her true comfort. She realizes that when he is around, her worries seem to disappear. But she still really wants to know what Iklot is up to. The next day, Iklot approaches Her Highness and says that he has evidence that one of the maids has been spreading personal information about her. Hearing this, the lady realizes that it is most likely one of the letters that Uriel sent him. The man explains that he ordered the knights to check the servants' records, and after comparing the handwriting, it became clear who wrote them. Iklot says that for a long time, this girl tried to get close to him, calling herself Her Highness's concubine. Apparently, she wanted to use him to harm the princess, while passing on information about her. Hearing this, Uriel cries out and says that he himself asked her to do so. Iklot coldly replies that the princess need only give the order, and he will immediately plunge her into eternal sleep. The princess is surprised by these words. He is really ready to kill Uriel. Before that, she had many opportunities to get rid of this girl, but she always found ways to cope without bloodshed. In addition, she understands that she cannot put Uriel into an eternal sleep. No one knows what will happen to the game after her death. If she disappears, the game may end, and Rhea will be stuck in this world forever. The main character also does not understand why no system notification warned Uriel that she would be captured and brought in for questioning. And she becomes curious. Could it be that this event was not foreseen by the system at all? Iklot turns to Her Highness and asks what exactly is troubling her. He says that there will be no peace for those who bring chaos to her soul. He swears to relieve her of any anxiety, even if it seems absurd or inexplicable, and is ready to take full responsibility. Hearing this, the girl is surprised. She did not expect him to be capable of doing anything for her. And suddenly, her soul becomes unusually calm. The man says he will protect Her Highness. He asks her to trust him, because she is his mistress, for whom he is ready to give even his own life. Eldria announces to Uriel that she is banished from the palace forever. The maid desperately begs to be allowed to explain herself, as she wants to clarify everything. The princess orders that a description of her be drawn up and given to the guards. Under no circumstances should this girl be allowed into the palace again. Uriel turns to Iklot and desperately asks why he is treating her this way, since she has endured so much for him. The main character looks at her and thinks that Uriel deserves all this, but her heart tells her that this is definitely not the end of the story. A system notification informs you that the quest, Border Knight, has failed. A penalty has been imposed. Ruth Iklota Facisa is completely closed due to her poor reputation. Uriel has been expelled from the palace and her exile status remains in effect. Rhea realizes that this was indeed a decisive moment. Meanwhile, Iklot asks Her Majesty if he can ask one question. At that moment, a knight enters the room and addresses Iklot. He immediately apologizes, as he did not know that he was here with the princess. The young lady asks what His Majesty has said. The knight replies that he has been ordered to bring Lord Iklot immediately, as many aristocrats have been waiting since yesterday to greet him. The main character realizes that the emperor has probably already been informed that Iklot has captured Uriel. Soon her exile will also become known. Therefore, there is no point in delaying this moment, and she orders him to go to the emperor. She adds that she will be ready to listen to him at any time. The man replies that he will return to her as soon as he has finished his business, and will try to do so as quickly as possible. 2 days later, the maids discuss the news that Her Highness has expelled Uriel from the palace. One of them says she heard that after that, she was quietly disposed of. The girls begin to wonder if the princess has returned to her old ways. Another maid replies that people are fickle, especially their mistress. Therefore, it is better to just follow orders and not meddle in things that do not concern them. Otherwise, one could easily lose one's head. Eldria cries out and asks the maids what kind of abomination they have brought her. Then she indignantly asks if they really call this food. The maid excuses herself and says that these are her favorite dishes. The lady sharply asks how they dare to make excuses. After that, she orders them to leave, because she doesn't want to see anyone. When the girl is left alone, she wonders if she managed to act convincingly enough. She deliberately pretended to be in withdrawal and hopes that everything looked plausible. It was the best plan she could come up with. Rhea thinks that she didn't really intend to harm anyone, but she simply had no other choice. She needs to find out where the drugs are hidden in the palace. She is sure that there is a person responsible for them, but he himself is not in contact. The main character realizes that it is almost impossible to find him directly. That is why she staged this performance, so that he would appear himself. Suddenly, the girl hears someone entering the room. She thinks that this person has finally arrived, and she becomes curious about who it is. Hess approaches the lady and urges her to take what he has brought. Seeing this, the lady asks in surprise where she is hiding all this. The maid cautiously says that if Her Highness consumes more than the daily allowance, it will be dangerous. The princess immediately replies that everything must be hidden and taken outside the palace so that no one finds out about it. The maid replies that her orders will be carried out as soon as possible. Rhea begins to think about Drazy. She had told her in advance to stop following her if the situation became too dangerous. The young lady is still unsure whether she can completely trust Hess. Now all she can do is wait and hope that the maid will indeed carry out her instructions. The girl thinks that Uriel's banishment has given her some time. Now she can search for the item mentioned in the system message. It is the very thing that was taken from the princess's bedroom. But her attempt to prevent Uriel from meeting the emperor has failed anyway. It seems that the system is clearly helping the main character, and it would not be surprising if she returns soon. Eldria realizes that she must therefore solve this problem as quickly as possible. When the lady sees Nadrika, she asks what he wants. The guy immediately runs up and hugs her tightly. She asks in surprise what happened. The young man says he is very happy to see Her Highness without medication. He admits that he was afraid she would start taking them again. The main character recalls that last night, when she asked him about the secret affairs of the former princess, he looked very distressed. The lady realizes that he was afraid that under the influence of drugs, she would become her former self again. She thinks that while Uriel is not in the palace, she can relax a little. After that, she asks if he will stay in her room tonight. At night, the girl suddenly hears strange noises. She notices that Nadrika has turned away from her. She feels uncomfortable because she begins to guess what is happening. Then, she quietly asks him what he is doing. The young man replies fearfully and asks if Her Highness is awake. Then he says he will explain everything. He just thought she didn't want to, so he decided to take care of it himself. The young man explains that Her Highness hugged him in her sleep, and that was enough to make him passionate. He admits that it is very difficult for him to restrain himself and remain patient when he is near her. The girl tells him to wait. Then she asks why he is trying to restrain himself at all. He replies that they have not been completely intimate since she lost her memory. Nadrika explains that the lady has become much more reserved with him, and he is just a slave for bedtime pleasures, so he couldn't be persistent. The lady asks if he really thought she had grown cold towards him. Rhea thinks about it. He says he was patient, but she realizes that she herself was constantly holding back. She wanted intimacy with him, but was afraid of hurting him again, as the former princess had done. The girl quietly says that she loves him and wants him. She asks him not to hold back anymore, and not to call her Your Highness. Let him just call her Rhea. After that, they become intimate. The next morning, the guy tells the lady that she shouldn't skip breakfast. After saying this, he gently kisses her. The main character asks if he has forgotten his promise from yesterday. He objects and calls her by her name, Rhea. The princess reminds him that they had agreed. When they are alone, he must call her Rhea. She even knew that she would have to remind him of this in the morning. After that, she jokingly calls him a bad boy. Nadrika explains that he just isn't used to it yet. She laughs and says that if he forgets again, he will face a terrible punishment. Hearing this, the boy asks excitedly if she is joking. The young lady realizes that whatever he calls her, it is still better than the cold Your Highness. But she did not even expect that hearing her name from his lips would be so pleasant. The maid cautiously asks if Her Highness is awake. Then she informs her that Sir Iklat Faisi is requesting an audience. She replies that he should be let in, thinking that he is clearly not a simple man and therefore cannot be ignored. Nadrika asks the lady if he should leave. She replies that he may stay. She then greets the man who enters the room. Iklo greets the princess and asks if she slept well. He hopes he did not interrupt her sleep, but asks if he disturbed her. The lady replies that everything is fine, as she woke up a long time ago. She adds that if he could have disturbed her, she simply would not have let him in. He replies that he is very glad to hear that. The girl notices that his face really does show joy. The man says that he thought he heard someone cough in the bedroom. The lady calmly replies that no one coughed and that everyone here is perfectly healthy. Rhea understands that no matter how fantastic this world may seem, the situation is still strange. She is lying in bed with one lover and at the same time accepting another man who is devoted to her. The princess notices that Iklat doesn't even bat an eye, as if this is a normal situation for him. After that, she asks what he wanted to talk about. Iklat replies that he has one request for Her Highness. 7 years ago, Iklat, the only son of the late Marquis, became famous on the borders of the empire. He proved himself to be a talented commander and a skilled diplomat. For the first time in the empire's history, a Marquis became captain of the Imperial Order of Knights, the main pillar of the ruling family. From members of parliament in the capital to minor aristocrats in the outskirts of the country, no one could ignore his influence. His appearance was a breath of fresh air in the stagnant political scene. This began to irritate the emperor, who could no longer turn a blind eye to Iklat's growing influence. But despite this, his noble origins, impeccable reputation, and position as commander of the order made him the leader of a new political force capable of changing the future of the country. At the banquet in honor of the princess's 18th birthday, an unexpected event occurred. When asked about her gift, she pointed to Sir Facis. From that moment on, everything changed. The Marquis said that from now on he would serve Her Highness and knelt before her. The political circles where he had previously played an important role gradually disappeared. Many decided that his thirst for power had blinded him. They believed that he had simply succumbed to the whims of the emperor's daughter and forgotten his aristocratic pride. The aristocrats, who had previously respected him, began to treat him with contempt. But despite the gossip and attacks, Iklat remained by the princess's side as her most loyal defender. 6 months later, the emperor declared war on the kingdom of Borne. Iklat Facis was appointed captain of the vanguard. He went on the campaign without magicians, taking only ordinary soldiers with him, and the princess did not even come out to see him off. People who had previously predicted a great political future for him now unanimously predicted that he would soon fall into an eternal sleep. But as if mocking their words, Iklat returned alive to his princess. The main character thinks that everything looks completely different from how the maid sees it. She wonders why they brought so much food, because it's too much for breakfast. Drazy says she won't interfere. Iklat asks the princess why she is not drinking tea. She asks him why he is not drinking it himself, because this tea is good for fatigue. At that moment, the girl realizes that he wants to ask her something. He just can't decide how to start the conversation. The main character knows that he helped her get rid of Uriel, but she still doesn't understand what motivates him. After a short pause, she suddenly asks if he was injured. The man calmly replies that there have been many dangerous incidents in his life, but they are hardly worth her attention. The lady still shows interest and asks what exactly happened to him. She invites him to tell her. Iklo recalls that once, during a night attack by enemies, he received several cuts on his neck, but, as he himself says with a slight smile, as you can see, his head is still intact. Hearing this, the girl is surprised at how calmly he talks about it. It's as if he's talking about something completely ordinary. Then she asks if he thought about her during the war. At that moment, she realizes that she needs the truth about how he really feels about her. Rhea thinks that even if it is hatred or a desire to plunge her into eternal sleep, it would still be easier for her to know his true feelings. But another question torments her. Could he not hold a grudge against the woman who caused him to lose everything and almost plunged him into eternal sleep himself? The man replies that he thought a lot at the moment when she sent him to war. He wondered what she really wanted, for him to return victorious or to give his life for her. Everyone around him was sure of the latter, but he believes that Her Highness's order was not die, but fight. Iklo says that he returned specifically to get an answer. Hearing this, the main character realizes what has been tormenting him all this time. And suddenly she realizes that it was all so simple. She doesn't understand why she didn't figure it out earlier, because she knows perfectly well that the former princess sent him to certain death. The ruthless Eldrin could have only one answer. For a person who would carry out any of her orders without hesitation, she understands that this is exactly the answer he expects to hear from the princess. The lady asks what would happen if she said she wanted him to die honorably in battle. She becomes curious about how he would react. She asks if he feels anger or resentment, and if he hates her. The man calmly replies that he does not. The girl is surprised and asks why he is like that. Why, after all this, he still became her concubine. The girl thinks that if he had wanted to, he could have refused at any moment. During conflicts with the emperor, the aristocrats would surely have taken his side. But he did not even try to resist, and immediately bowed down before the princess. Iklo confidently states that protecting the welfare of the imperial family has always been his primary responsibility. The guard greets Her Highness. She asks where it is quiet now. The man replies that it is in the 5th reading room. The lady says she wants to read a book in peace and asks him to make sure no one enters. The guard offers to escort her, but she objects and says there is no need. After that, she leaves alone. The employee suddenly realizes that he has made a mistake. There is actually already someone in the 5th reading room. It turns out that he has unwittingly deceived Her Highness, and now he thinks that all that remains for him is to say goodbye to his head. Rovia looks through the books in the library and thinks that there will be enough for the next lesson. But suddenly he hears someone's footsteps. This surprises him, because he was told that no one would be here. At this moment, the main character thinks that no one is watching her. That's why she came here. She considers the library to be the best place to calm down and collect her thoughts. But she doesn't even know where to sit. The man notices Her Highness, and now he doesn't know what to do. Should he go out and greet her or remain unnoticed? The girl complains about him in her thoughts. She finds him unbearable and doesn't understand how anyone can be so impenetrable. She's not even sure if he's really like that or just pretending. The young lady reflects that she hardly slept last night and now feels very tired. And this strange conversation has only further confused her thoughts. Eklo turns to Her Highness and says he has something important to tell her. He has heard rumors that the servants have dared to touch her concubine. Therefore, he asks permission to sentence them to eternal sleep. Her ladyship immediately objects and forbids him to do so. She reminds him that only a couple of days have passed since his return, and he is already acting as if he knows everything that is going on in the palace. Hearing this, the man replies that this is not the case. The lady says that she has already decided to deal with the situation herself. Therefore, she asks him not to interfere. Ikrat thinks otherwise. According to him, an attack on people belonging to Her Highness is a direct insult to the imperial family. This means that the guilty parties must be punished in such a way that it serves as a lesson to others. He also says that it is necessary to ensure that this does not happen again. In his opinion, these are necessary measures to preserve power and strengthen the position of the imperial family. Rhea understands that he is not concerned about Nodrik's suffering. In fact, he simply wants to preserve the authority of the crown. To this end, putting people into an eternal sleep is merely a tool for him. The lady says that taking such measures is wrong. The man calmly replies that whether it is right or wrong does not matter. The only thing that matters is that it is necessary for her. Iklo adds that these are the rules. Those who think otherwise are sent to the scaffold without delay. And loyalty is always generously rewarded. The man reminds her that Uriel betrayed the emperor's sister. The princess replies that she has already been banished from the palace. She asks if that is not enough. The marquis asks another question. What will happen if this woman discovers her weak spot? Then he says that she only has to give the order, and he will quietly solve this problem. The main character asks if he thinks it is unfair that she did not send these people and Uriel to sleep forever. But at the same time, she sent him, a man loyal to the crown, to almost certain death. The lady says she did nothing to that stupid girl. She just kicked her out of the palace. And she asks if he finds that suspicious. Iklut replies that it doesn't seem suspicious at all. Then he admits that his emotions seem to be clouding his judgment. He says that he won't be able to be the perfect protector for her if she hides things from him. He apologizes if he was too harsh. The girl is surprised that he reacts emotionally at all. She did not expect this. But she understands that Uriel is not just a palace servant to her. He is the only thread connecting her to the past. And so, Iklat's fierce desire to plunge her into eternal sleep seems too suspicious to her. Eldria asks if he is ready to carry out any of her orders. He replies that he is. Then she reminds him that she confessed to him her desire for his death, and she asks if he agrees even with that. The man says that he is only doing what he must. The lady remarks that he speaks as if he considers this perfectly normal. She asks if he finds the prospect of losing his head because of her whim amusing. Ikrat replies that being a vassal of the imperial family means absolute loyalty. He has no reason to doubt her decisions, and he says that he is completely honest with her about this. Hearing this, the girl wonders if he understands what he is saying. After all, she was going to apologize to him instead of the former princess. Whatever the reason, she considers that order unfair. Ria concludes that he seems to sincerely believe his own words. This implies that asking him for forgiveness is pointless. She states that she no longer wishes to hear about punishing these individuals and requests that he leave. He responds that if it is Her Highness's wish, then he will take his leave for the day. The princess thinks that she is not at all the woman to whom he has devoted his loyalty, nor is she the one for whom he was willing to risk his life in war. This thought makes her anxious. After all, one day he may draw his sword and turn it against her. The girl recalls that she had previously intended to simply pretend to be the former princess. However, she now feels that she cannot escape her fate as the main antagonist in this game. For the time being, she has only one option: to continue defending her position as princess. The young lady opens the book and remembers Rovia's words from the last lesson. He said that this book contains the information she needs, and if she is not mistaken, this information can help her. Rovia approaches the princess and asks with interest what she has been reading for so long. He finds it unusual that Her Highness has come to study in the library on her own, and it reminds him of something from the past. The man recalls that not long ago, he, Rovia Zurin, an ordinary civil servant, managed to attain a fairly high position in the civil service. His boss told him to remember one thing. Unlike other library managers, the books Rovia is responsible for are only available to the imperial family. If it weren't for his background, he could have achieved an even higher position. But his boss called it a pity and advised him to work hard in his new position. For centuries, all power had been in the hands of high-ranking aristocrats. Their children, allies, and related houses held influence and had no intention of sharing it with others. Therefore, provincial aristocrats like him, who were not particularly distinguished, had almost no chance of obtaining high positions. Rovius often wondered what the point of talent was if it could not be put to use, and so he found himself locked in this place with no opportunity to prove himself. Over time, his work began to wear him down, and then one day, during one of those boring days, the princess noticed him. She approached him and said she was pleased to meet him. That quiet, whispering voice called his name, but when he came to his senses and opened his eyes, there was no one there. That was how he first met her. Rovia addresses Her Highness and says that he would feel awkward if someone saw her sleeping. Therefore, he decided it would be better to wake her up. At that moment, the main character thinks that she hopes she didn't mumble anything strange in her sleep, and the guy catches himself thinking that he wanted to kiss her while she was sleeping. He doesn't understand what came over him. The man asks her if she often comes to the library. She replies that she doesn't very often, but sometimes she stops by. At the same time, she thinks that she was wrong to relax so much and decides to be more careful from now on. Even here, Rovia asks if she remembers how they first met in this library. It was quite a long time ago. The girl is confused because she has no memories of her former life as a princess. She simply doesn't know how to answer. The princess says that she seems to have forgotten a little. Then he asks about their first meeting at the lake. Does she really not remember that either? After all, she was the one who said that the lake was very beautiful. Ria replies that she remembers the lake. Inside, she realizes that she can't keep saying she doesn't know anything, so she decides to change the subject as quickly as possible before the conversation becomes a problem. The main character suddenly says she is hungry. She then invites him to join her for lunch. Rovia, sitting at the table, admits that he thought they would be dining alone. The lady replies that she decided to arrange a joint dinner, and then she remembers that she has already invited Nadrik. She realizes that she cannot take back her words. But she did not expect such a tense atmosphere to arise between the two. The princess says she has wanted to discuss this for a long time. She turns to Rovi and gently tells him that he should be a little more polite to those around him. She notes that he often gets angry for no reason. Therefore, she suggests that he work on this. Ria turns to Nadrik and asks if he agrees. He replies that he thinks so too. Then the Marquis says that's enough and suggests they just continue eating. At this moment, the main character recalls that her first impression of Rovia was not the most pleasant. But when she got to know him better, she realized that he was much better than he seemed. He just often acts rude for no particular reason. Although, in a way, it's even cute. The lady feels that the atmosphere is becoming more and more tense. She thinks that Nadrik is even a little scared. Then she says that she wants to ask something and cautiously inquires whether they have quarreled. Rovia asks in surprise why he would bother with such a thing. The lady replies that it is common practice in the harem. One could say that it is rivalry between favorites. The man asks discontentedly since when he has been her equal, and doesn't she find such a comparison too strange? Ria asks Nadrik in surprise if he is jealous. Then she smiles and says that it is even charming. The princess asks Hess how the people who touched Nadrik are living now. Hess replies that they are keeping quiet and trying not to attract attention. But there is a rumor among the palace servants that Her Highness spared their lives only to watch them suffer. The main character says she understands. Then she tells Hess that she can take the day off. After all, she only needs Drazy's help to get dressed. The girl thinks that she didn't really need their lives at all, but it's better to let everyone continue to believe that she is mocking them. Then no one will dare to repeat such a thing. Drazy informs Her Highness that, as she ordered, Hess has hidden all the medicines outside that used to be kept in the kitchen storeroom. Now, in her opinion, there is nothing to worry about. Rhea looks at the maid and thinks she resembles a puppy waiting for praise. Then she says it's a job well done. In the evening, lying in bed, the princess thinks that she has figured out the drugs. But now she is worried about something else. She does not understand where to look for the things she needs. The clue said that it was in the bedroom, but there are dozens of them in the palace, and no matter how hard she searches, she cannot find it. The lady thinks about how, after receiving the clue, she secretly searched the princess's bedrooms every day. She tried not to be seen by anyone, but she never found anything special. At the same time, she realizes that she cannot ask Nadrik or Drazy. Rhea doesn't know what to do next or how long her strength will last. Yes, she kicked Uriel out of the palace, but she seriously doubts that this will be the end of it. The noisy game notifications that used to appear almost every day have now disappeared, so she has gotten rid of that threat for now. But she is still stuck in this world. She lives under a false identity, constantly lies, and does not know who would ever side with someone like her. The man asks the commander in surprise what he just said. He was called to the training ground in the middle of the night and suddenly stunned with such a statement. The young man asks the captain in astonishment if he is serious. Is he really supposed to entertain this crazy woman? After all, he is the very same street urchin who once nearly found himself on the verge of falling into an eternal sleep among bandits. Sigurd reminds him that despite discrimination and contempt, he managed to join the Order of Knights and even became its deputy. Then he asks if the guy understands what exactly he is talking about. The young man indignantly asks if he has lost his mind. He has achieved so much only to end up as someone's plaything. The captain asks him to calm down and listen carefully. He says there is one thing to remember. Do not do anything that will attract attention. He must endure silently and do everything she orders. The captain advises him to pretend to be submissive. He has heard that she does not hesitate to send those who resist to an eternal sleep. Therefore, he asks him to think first and foremost about his own safety, and to live as if he completely agrees with the imperial order. The man says that all he needs to do is be patient. He promises that he will definitely find a way to get him out of this situation. The guy just sighs heavily and says that it seems like this country has finally gone mad. The captain kneels down and apologizes. He quietly says that he is truly sorry. The next day, Sigurd packs his things. He tells the captain that he deceived him. After all, he promised to help him out, and he asks if it was just said to get rid of him. At this moment, the servants whisper among themselves. They think he is incredibly lucky. After all, he managed to escape from the princess's cursed brothel. The guy himself doesn't know what to say. Even he was shocked when the lady announced that she was going to disband this nightly squad as soon as possible. Sigurd thinks that at one point, it even seemed to him that he was looking at a completely different person. He doesn't understand what exactly happened, but he considers it a great stroke of luck that the princess decided to disband the squad. The young man believes that she did the right thing this time. After all, no one knows what crazy idea might come into her head next time. Sigurd comes to the captain and asks if he was waiting for him. Seeing him, the man rejoices and says that he is a good man for coming back. He reminds him that he promised to get him out. The young man replies that he came back anyway, although he understands that now he will have to start all over again. He asks if he is now considered dishonored, and suggests sending him somewhere far away, for example, to a quiet province. Sigurd remarks ironically that soldiers seem to be heartless people. He almost died in an unequal battle with the wandering princess, and no one even sympathized with him. The young man understands that a knight who abandoned his comrades for the sake of a princess's whim is unlikely to earn respect. He did not expect that the order, where honor and pride come first, would welcome him with open arms, especially since, from the very beginning, he was like a thorn in their side. Sigurd says he has grown accustomed to this attitude. He understands that a commoner like him will always be an outsider. And after he became the captain's favorite, many turned their backs on him completely and waited for an opportunity to gloat. The captain says that perhaps she has indeed calmed down now, but no one can guarantee that her madness will not return. The young man asks where he will be sent now. The captain replies that he can stay, as he has been approved for the guard that serves outside the palace. Hearing this, the young man asks in surprise if this is the same guard that patrols the spire towers. A few days later, the boys knock and ask the lady if they can come in. She looks them over and says that they have been washed and fed. Now they at least look like human beings. Then she orders the maid to prepare them for training as palace servants. The princess says that they must be wondering why they were brought here. She then explains that she wants them to get used to this place and the palace rules as quickly as possible. The lady says she is giving them a chance to live in the palace and work honestly. The boy asks in surprise why Her Highness decided to keep them at all. Ria promises that she will do everything possible to ensure that nothing bad happens to them. At that moment, Rovia enters the room. He asks her if she thinks she is acting too childishly. In his opinion, buying slaves out of mere sympathy is unreasonable. Besides, as he reminds her, it is illegal. The princess asks in surprise if he just criticized her. He calmly replies that he doesn't understand what the criticism is. The lady says that she did not forbid him to express his opinion, but he should not cross the line. After all, she had her reasons. The law prohibiting slavery has been in effect for less than 10 years. However, judging by the fact that the imperial family has no intention of arresting anyone, it is still widespread. Starting with the empress herself, practically everyone in the palace is involved in it. Rovia says that, in his opinion, this is the work of the Easterners, the Velods. Hearing this, the lady remarks in surprise that he is, it turns out, a jack of all trades. At that moment, a maid rushes in and excitedly reports that something terrible has happened. It turns out that one of the palace maids has attempted suicide. It is the same girl who dared to touch her concubine and tried to hang herself from the chandelier. Hess explains that today they were watching the palace on the princess's orders. Fortunately, the maid was found in time, so her life is now out of danger. The princess thinks it is good that she took precautions. Reports of what was happening had come in before, but after talking to Eiklat, she decided to increase surveillance in the palace. The main character realizes that if she had not intervened, the maid could have been found dead the next day. Dracy anxiously asks Her Highness if she is all right. The lady replies by asking if she really looks that bad. Ria understands how all this looks in the eyes of the palace servants. They believe that this is the princess's new entertainment, as if she is deliberately tormenting them, and when she has had her fill of their suffering, she will calmly send each of them to sleep forever. The lady reflects that she has heard these rumors before, but did not stop them. She hoped that the fear of falling into eternal sleep would prevent the servants from crossing the line. However, things went much further than mere rumors. The people at the center of these conversations became objects of contempt and harassment. Gradually, they began to be shunned and separated from the other servants. Among the persecutors were some particularly cruel individuals. They decided that it would be best to expel these unfortunate people from their society altogether. This continued until a young maid, who had been forced by the older servants to watch them and report on their every move, attempted to take her own life. The princess turns to Hess and tells her to bring everyone involved in this and the previous incident to her. The only exception is for those who are currently working outside the palace. The maid reports that some maids even tried to escape at night. Hearing this, the lady says with irritation that she could not have imagined that the palace was such a mess. Hess reports that, on Her Highness's orders, everyone involved in both incidents has already been caught. Ria realizes that it was her mistake. She can no longer leave things as they are. The girl thinks that this time she will have to act not as she thinks is right, but as is truly necessary. Iklo notes that Her Highness intends to punish the guilty parties. He addresses the servants and announces that for their crime, each will have their right wrist cut off. Over time, the wounds will heal and the pain will be forgotten. The princess adds that every time they look at their severed wrists, they will remember the crime they have committed. This will be their punishment. After receiving medical attention, they will be expelled from the palace. Her Highness also orders that their accomplices be punished. They will receive 7 lashes with a whip, after which they will also be expelled from the palace. Eglo watches what is happening and thinks that he noticed changes in Her Highness's behavior from the very beginning. He believed that this was because she had been without his protection for a long time. Driti looks at the gentleman and says that the lady recently said she wanted to be alone. Perhaps she is walking in the garden now. The young gentleman thinks about what he will say to her when he meets her. He wants to talk to Her Highness, but he can't think of a suitable reason. Iklat thinks that all he can do is wander around aimlessly looking for her. When he finally spots the lady, he greets her. She calmly says that he was right after all. The young man asks her not to take everything too much to heart, and she replies that she knew he would say that. The princess reminds him that he said it didn't matter whether it was right or wrong. She then asks him what he thinks of her decision to punish the servants. Iklat assures her that she did the right thing. The lady asks why. Was it because they treated the crown with contempt? Or was it because she got rid of undesirable people, effectively pushing them to commit a crime? The man replies that he sees no particular difference. At this point, he sincerely does not understand where she is going with this. The lady says that in the first case, the blame lies with the servants. In the second, it can be shifted to anyone, even the emperor. Hearing these words, Iklat immediately falls to her knees and begs the lady not to say such things. The main character thinks that she has always considered blind obedience to authority to be terribly unfair, but she understands that Iklat is one of those people who, having chosen a master, devotes himself entirely to him. Therefore, she decides to try to talk to him frankly. The princess says she wants to ask him one question. She asks if he will agree to answer honestly. Ria explains that if the means of achieving a goal turn out to be wrong, they must be corrected. And if that is impossible, then another means must be found. The girl says that it is important to remember the goal itself. If it is wrong from the outset, then no matter which path you choose, the result will still be sad. After that, she asks what he will become for her, unfaithful or new. The main character thinks that this man may never change. Therefore, she decides otherwise. If the meaning of his life is to serve his master until the very end, then she will become that master. Iklo replies that he will gladly become her new means. He says he will follow her anywhere, whichever path she chooses. Ria learns that Shigeru has been assigned to guard duty and asks in surprise what that means. The master wonders if she thought that after his return he would simply take up his former position. The princess reminds him that he was not just the youngest vice captain, he also became the first commoner to hold such a high position, and she does not understand where she made a mistake. Rovia replies that this is indeed the case, but he doubts that the man who took his place would willingly agree to return the position. After all, even when Seeger became vice captain, many were dissatisfied and considered this appointment unheard of. The lady says irritably that everything is not going as it should. She is surprised that she is only now learning about all these conversations. The gentleman asks if it is because she simply did not pay attention to such things before. Rovia explains that it is dangerous to disturb Her Highness with trivial news. There is always a risk of leaving the palace feet first. Therefore, it is not surprising that her subordinates are afraid to speak to her unnecessarily. The maid informs the lady that Sir Iklot has arrived. She orders her to tell him to come in. Iklo greets the lady and kisses her hand. Then he says that he has received news. Territorial negotiations with Rothschild are now being led by Her Highness, and the Emperor has ordered him to assist her with advice on military matters. Hearing this, the main character recalls that this did indeed happen. She wonders if the Emperor specifically assigned her this task to improve her relationship with Iklot. The princess says that he should not worry. He has only recently returned from a difficult journey and needs to rest. Besides, she now has more than enough help from Rovia. The Marquis remarks with a smirk that this is the first time he has seen a man with even less pride than himself. Iklo calmly replies that he probably meant conscience rather than pride. Rovia asks in surprise what he is talking about. The lady immediately intervenes and asks them to stop. She doesn't care whether they argue or not, but she asks them to choose a more appropriate time and place for it. Ikrot apologizes to Her Highness. The main character thinks that these two are behaving like cats and dogs. Then she asks the captain of the knights if he can come see her later. Eldria says she wants to discuss one issue with him. Right now, it seems the situation is not at all conducive to conversation. The man replies that he understands and will come in the evening. Rovia asks why she needs to talk to him alone. He suggests talking about it right now and asks what he shouldn't hear, or maybe she just doesn't trust him because of his past betrayal. The man says that if that's not the case, he doesn't understand why she's being so secretive, so he suggests discussing everything here and now. The lady asks irritably what is wrong with him today. In her mind, she adds that something is wrong with both of them. It's as if they've broken loose from their chains. There is no reason for such nervousness, but they are behaving like children. Ria gently touches his hand and asks him to calm down. The guy immediately addresses Her Highness and asks her not to let Iklo get too close. He says that this man cannot be trusted and asks if she understands him. Hearing this, Iklo coldly asks if he understands where he is and who he is talking to. In his opinion, such disrespect is unforgivable. Rovia turns to Her Highness and asks if she will punish him. The lady realizes that he is cunning and knows her answer perfectly well. She calmly says that there will be no punishment. The blonde man asks if he heard her decision. Then he adds that it does not concern him, so he is free to go. Iklo still addresses the lady and insists on punishment. Rovia reminds him that Her Highness has already said that she has no objection to his behavior. The main character cannot stand it and orders them both to leave. In the evening, the princess notices that he is late. The man apologizes. She says there is no need to apologize, and first invites him to sit down. The lady suddenly notices that the distance between them seems smaller than usual today. At that moment, the man begins to undress. The girl looks at him in surprise and says that he is behaving strangely. Iklo asks if he seems awkward to her. The lady replies that this is not the case. The next second, the man touches her lips and she has no idea how to react. The gentleman quietly asks if he may touch Her Highness. The girl asks in confusion if he is talking about a kiss. She is surprised at how he could bring this up so suddenly. Iklo carefully lays the lady on the bed and begins to kiss her. She immediately objects and pushes him away. Then she says that he seems to have misunderstood her and asks if he is going to sleep with her now. Ria was initially afraid that he would despise her in retaliation for the former princess sending him to war. But now she sees that everything is turning out quite differently. The man calmly says that he is simply following her orders. She asks in surprise if that means he is not doing everything because he wants to. She asks if it is his own desire. The gentleman replies that it is his duty as her concubine to serve Her Highness obediently. If she does not like how he has done everything, she should say so. Then he will try to be more useful to his mistress. The princess immediately says that in that case, nothing is needed. The man asks if this is related to what happened during the day. He asks her to trust him because she won't find anyone more reliable anyway. Eldria replies that it is not a matter of mistrust. She simply believes that he deserves better. If he does not want it himself, she will not force him. In fact, she only called him to talk. The girl apologizes for the misunderstanding. She thinks he simply misunderstood her invitation. Iklo says she has nothing to apologize for and asks what she wanted to discuss. The girl thinks she actually does have something to apologize for. Considering the actions of the former princess, it is not surprising that he came to this conclusion. The lady does not understand how she could have so carelessly agreed to an evening meeting. She cannot even imagine why he reacted this way. The man calmly puts on his clothes. The girl looks at him and suddenly feels a strange heaviness inside. It is an unpleasant feeling that is difficult to describe in words. Iklo says that it is too late for conversation. It would be better to meet another time and discuss everything calmly. Ria grabs his hand and asks him to wait. Then she tells him to take care of himself. A second later, she wonders if she said the right thing. Suddenly, she adds that she liked that kiss. The man calmly replies that he understands her. After that, he wishes her good night and leaves. When the princess is left alone, she blushes with shame. It seems to her that the situation could not be worse. But at that moment, she feels that she cannot just let him go. The girl understands that a man who thinks only of entertainment and passions will never become a great ruler. But she doesn't know how to keep a clear head when there are so many handsome men around who seem to be begging to get into her bed. Ria thinks that even the most ordinary person in her place could easily slip into lust and debauchery. But she pulls herself together. Rovia reacted too sharply to Ekota, and she is sure that it is not just jealousy, so she needs to find out everything carefully. The captain turns to Sigurd and says that it's time for his shift. Then he asks if he's going to continue being lazy. The guy replies that he has just started having a pleasant dream. He hasn't had one in a long time, but since he's been woken up, he'll go. The knight says he has something to tell him. He understands that Sigurd is upset about being stripped of his rank, but that is no reason to neglect his duties to the squad. Sigurd looks at him in surprise. The knight adds that perhaps these duties seem trivial to him, but for them it is a matter of honor, and if he continues to treat his duties so lightly, he will report him to his superiors. The man says that he used to respect him as a fellow commoner. Sigurd asks in surprise if that means he is no longer respected. Then he calmly apologizes for his disappointment and pats him on the shoulder. The guy thinks that you can just ignore people like that, but he is bothered by another problem. He has been told that the crazy woman is now following him. She constantly hides and watches him from afar. Sigurd decides to pretend he doesn't notice anything. He even becomes curious if this is a new game. She doesn't approach him, but simply watches from afar with a pitying expression on her face. The guy doesn't understand why, but it starts to annoy him. He used to think she was crazy, and now he is sure that she has completely lost her mind. After all, he has no idea what she wants from him. The head maid rushes the servants and tells them that everything must be prepared as quickly as possible. The curtains in the hall should also be replaced with new ones. The lady asks if there is enough food for the banquet and if supplies need to be replenished. Drazy thinks that this is the first time she has been involved in preparing such a big celebration. Hess approaches her and says that he can see how happy she is. The maid agrees and says with a smile that tomorrow there will be a banquet here in honor of the victory. There will be lots of delicious food. She even plans to secretly take some so they can eat together later. Hess apologizes and says that there is a relative of her age downstairs. The girl replies that, on the contrary, she is glad. She feels relieved because after that incident when she had to look after her little sister, she was very uneasy. The maid remarks to Dracy that she seems to like Her Highness very much. She immediately agrees and says that there is no one else in the world as wonderful as their princess. The maid adds that she is not at all scary, as people say. On the contrary, she is very kind. Dracy has even lost count of how many times the princess has treated her to something delicious, and she does not understand where all these strange rumors came from. Hearing this, Hess says that now she understands why the lady is so kind. After that, she calmly strokes the girl's hair and says that now she can stop worrying about her. Drazy assures her that everything is fine. This is the absolute truth. The maid replies that she is glad to hear it. She asks Drazy to be sure to tell her if any difficulties arise. Drazy asks Her Highness when they will begin preparations for the banquet. Hearing this, the lady asks in surprise what preparations she is talking about. The maid explains that the whole palace has been bustling with preparations since early morning. She reminds her that she needs to get her ball gown ready. After all, if the banquet is being held at Her Highness's palace, she must look stunning. Drazy asks if she can help her choose a dress. The princess replies that she would be grateful for the help. The main character thinks that this moment has finally come. Meanwhile, the maid asks Her Highness what people usually do at banquets. Ria reflects that she is, after all, in the imperial palace. She had expected something like a ball. But, as luck would have it, the first congratulatory banquet in honor of Iklo's victory was decided to be held in the princess's palace. Nadrika explains that, at such banquets, those who contributed to the victory are usually awarded orders, titles, and lands. After that, the guests dance with their companions, get acquainted, socialize, and engage in small talk. The young lady realizes that there is another problem. She does not know anyone among the guests. She has no idea how to dance, and she does not understand why such an important event was decided to be held in the princess's palace. The girl thinks it would be much more logical to hold the celebration in the main palace, as is usually done. The young man asks Her Highness if she is worried about the upcoming banquet. She replies that she is not. It's just that the thought of having to smile all day is already exhausting. Nadrika says that she doesn't have to smile. He is sure that no one would dare to approach Her Highness. Then she asks if he would mind accompanying her. Hearing this, the young man is surprised. The lady asks what is bothering him. She reminds him that people usually come to the banquet in pairs. Rhea assumes that he may be embarrassed because he doesn't want to go with her. The guy immediately replies that he can't help wanting to. Then the lady says that everything has been decided. The princess asks Drazy if she can help with the preparations and look after Nadrika. The maid confidently replies that she will definitely take care of everything. She asks her to rely on her completely and promises to do her best. Nadrika asks the lady if his presence will cause any inconvenience. The princess reminds him that he is accompanying her, so there is nothing to worry about. He confidently adds that, as he said before, no one would dare say a word of reproach to her. The maid turns to Her Highness and says that she will leave them alone. She wishes them a pleasant time and quietly withdraws. Hess informs the princess that the banquet will begin shortly. The lady thanks Dracy for her help and says that she is very pleased with her work. As a reward, she can eat whatever she wants, because the kitchen has already received the appropriate instructions. The maid looks at them with delight and says that they look perfect together. Rhea says that she will go then. The lady turns to Nadrika and remarks that he has said almost nothing during all the preparations. Then she asks what is troubling him. He admits that this is his first time at such a banquet and that he is a little nervous. The main character thinks that if she had known that this would be their first public appearance together, she would have chosen a more suitable place and time. The young man asks Her Highness if she is worried. Many guests will gather at the banquet, and he is concerned that there may be complications, as her memory has not yet fully returned. The princess calmly replies that everything will be fine and she will manage. Then she says that they should hurry, otherwise they might be late. The young man believes that there is no need to worry. After all, the main characters are never late and always arrive right on time. The emperor addresses his soldiers and tells them that they fought bravely and won another victory in a difficult battle for the great empire. He has high hopes for them and urges them to continue defending their homeland so that its pride and glory will only grow. The knights kneel and swear that everything will be done. They declare that they are ready to give their lives for their homeland and serve their king. The main character thinks that she never ceases to be amazed. Sometimes the emperor seems immature, but ruling seems to be in his blood. She understands that the banquet is being held in honor of the victory in the war, but notices that their hero, Iklo, the main protagonist of the celebration, is nowhere to be seen. Nadrika quietly approaches the princess and confesses that his intuition tells him one thing. This banquet is unlikely to be so peaceful. The lady realizes that she could have gotten into serious trouble if things had gone a little differently. Problems arose at the very beginning of the banquet, but thanks to him, she managed to avoid a very unpleasant situation. The young lady realizes that if she had not recognized the empress, everyone around her would have decided that she had finally lost her mind or was deliberately provoking a scandal. The young man explains that it was the only thing he could do in that situation. Now he wonders if he was right to intervene, as his actions may have seemed too bold. Suddenly, a man approaches the princess and says that they haven't seen each other in a long time. At that moment, she smells a strong odor of alcohol and realizes that he is almost completely intoxicated. She even wonders how it is possible to get so drunk. The girl does not understand why this man seems familiar to her. Judging by the reaction of those around him, who did not even try to stop him, they are well aware of his previous relationship with the princess. The princess demands that he let her go. The man is surprised and asks why. Then he says that he noticed she was unaccompanied and decided to do her a favor. Hearing this, the main character realizes that he does not even consider Nadrika to be human. She says that she does not want to cause any unnecessary trouble right now and advises him to disappear while she is asking nicely. The man smirks and says that she is acting the same way again. He claims that he knows her true self and understands that she is only strong with words. Then he suggests that they step aside for a moment. Hearing this, Nadrika decides to deal with the insolent man. He strikes him and sends him to the floor. The gentleman cries out and indignantly declares that he has completely lost his mind and does not know his place. At that moment, the knights rush over and grab the drunk man. The lady immediately asks the young man if he is all right. The gentleman continues to shout and says that some stepson of the lower class dared to touch him. He furiously declares that the young man will sink into eternal sleep for this and asks if he understands. Her Highness addresses the knights and orders them to release this gentleman. Hearing this, the drunk man begins to yell for his immediate release. He is outraged that some ordinary knights from the common people dare to take him away and calls them insolent bastards. The princess grabs the man sharply by the neck and says that he has no manners whatsoever. He asks in astonishment what she is doing. The lady calmly suggests that he stop and think for once in his life. The lady says that he shook his hips in front of her and decided that she belonged to him. She coldly adds that he should learn to understand who he can touch and who he cannot. After that, she orders him to be taken away. Nadrika turns to Her Highness and asks if she is all right. She replies in surprise and asks what could have happened to her. The guy says he is very sorry. He thinks he made too much noise and put her in an awkward position. She calmly asks what the big deal is, since she is a princess. Ria suggests that her boyfriend go outside for some fresh air. The air in this building is too stuffy, and she wants to get some fresh air. The main character thinks that the rude boar ruined the whole celebration. Now she has no desire to stay at the ball. She barely restrained herself from beating him up right there, but she believes that he got what he deserved and has no regrets. Nadrika turns to Her Highness and apologizes. She asks in surprise what he is apologizing for. The guy says that not only did he not help her, but he also attracted unnecessary attention to them. Ria objects and says that this is not the case at all. She asks him not to say such things. Then she comes closer, hugs him, and says that he has helped her a lot. The young man believes that he has done almost nothing, and this upsets him greatly. The lady says she does not think so. The guy replies that it is still not enough for him because he wants to protect Her Highness and become a more important person to her. Nadrika says he wants to protect her just as she protects him. The girl agrees with him and promises to do everything she can to help him become that person. The guy suddenly tells Her Highness that there is a lot she doesn't know. The lady is surprised and asks what he means. He replies that he'd better go and get some drinks and asks if she would like some red wine. The main character thinks about how her appearance in this world was sudden, like a bolt from the blue. But over time, she has gotten used to her new life, the people around her, and even the fact that she is now being served. The girl reflects that she has already completely adapted to these circumstances. So far, she is managing to cope, but it is still interesting to see what awaits her next. Ria realizes that she needs Uriel to answer this question. But they are enemies, so she cannot expect any help from her, not even a small hint. Suddenly, the princess notices that a game window flashes before her eyes for a moment. She thinks she's just imagining things, but the next moment, she falls from the balcony. She realizes that it's only the second floor, and she won't fall into an eternal sleep. Edson manages to catch the lady, and thanks to him, she doesn't hit the ground. The lady says that they haven't seen each other in a long time, and she didn't expect to meet him here. She feels awkward and apologizes. The man notices that she's apologizing again and says that he thinks he will leave. The princess replies that it must have been unpleasant for him to help her, but thanks him anyway. The gentleman suddenly takes the lady by the hand and asks her to wait. He says he wants to ask her one question. The girl does not understand why he is suddenly showing her such attention. The man asks her directly why she is helping him. The princess reminds him that she has already told him that she is no longer interested in him. The man replies that it would have been easier for her to get rid of him then. But on that day, she said she felt sorry for him. He asks why the princess he knows never feels pity. Ria understands that he did not come here for the entertainment of the ball. He wanted to see her and ask these questions. Eldria asks if he really knows her that well. The man replies that he has only seen the worst side of her nature and therefore demands once again that she explain why she is helping him. The main character realizes that this time, she won't be able to get out of it as easily as before. She asks what difference it makes to him and suggests that they just forget about everything. The girl says that if they never meet again, then they can consider it all over. Edson asks if she knows this pain. When he wakes up in the morning and when he falls asleep at night. When he laughs or when he is sad. Even when he is in the arms of another woman. Wherever he goes and whatever he does, she remains in his thoughts every moment. Nadrika, seeing the princess, wanted to go to her immediately. But the knight suddenly stopped him and covered his mouth with his hand, preventing him from interfering. Edson asks if she really means for him to just forget everything. The man next to him quietly remarks that there is no point in eavesdropping any further. After that, he informs Her Highness that someone is waiting for her. The lady realizes that she disappeared suddenly, and Nadrika must have already started to worry. She tells the man that she understands his words. But if it's so hard for him to look at her, then the best solution for them is to keep their distance. Therefore, she asks him not to come near her anymore and to keep his distance. Ria asks Nadrika how long he has been waiting for her. The guy asks in surprise how she ended up here. Lady says it was all accidental and suggests they go back. Sigurd addresses Her Highness and thanks her for the performance. At this moment, the main character thinks that she was going to just leave, pretending not to notice him. Then she asks what performance he is talking about. The knight asks if he is mistaken. He says that even though she destroyed his country and killed his loved ones, he is still completely under her power. According to him, even his heart and mind seem to be enslaved, and he is completely caught up in her. Sigurd believes that this guy is not the type who will ever be able to admit such a thing, and that, in his opinion, is what will one day destroy him. The lady says his name. He is surprised and asks if she really remembers his name. The princess replies that she does. She knows that he is still hurt because, in the prime of his life, she destroyed his dreams of a brilliant career, and after all the humiliation, she simply threw him away like a pair of old, worn-out shoes. The lady asks if he compares himself to Edson. Then she calmly says that if he wants to take revenge one day, he should learn to hide his feelings better. The girl thinks about his words, about her heart and mind being in her power. But she is sure that Seeker is wrong. Edson's feelings for her cannot be explained so simply. Nadrika tells the princess that she wants to see her happy. Therefore, she should not tie herself to a past that she cannot even remember. The girl understands that in this guy's eyes, she is just a princess who has lost her memory. But she replies that her past is still a part of her. And that means she will have to take responsibility for it. Ria catches herself feeling strange. She had been confined to the palace almost the entire time, and had begun to think that she had simply been forgotten. When the lady notices Iklo, she remembers that he dreamed of joining the imperial family. But instead, he became just another concubine, and judging by today, he has already been supplanted by another concubine, who was once a slave. The princess knew that the emperor was holding Iklot back, but she did not expect things to go this far. Now she wonders if this is why the victory banquet was held right in the princess's palace. And yet she herself had never even thought about him. Nadrika tells the lady that he must confess something. He cannot dance and has never learned the dances that are usually performed at balls. Then he kisses her hand and apologizes. Eldria realizes that he wants to leave her so that she can pay attention to Iklot. The young man promises that next time he will definitely dance with her. The aristocrats whisper among themselves and say that everything turned out exactly as they expected. He did not turn out to be a good husband. If he had been content with the title of Duke, he would not have ended up as an abandoned concubine. The main character thinks that even though they know she can hear everything, they continue to humiliate him without any restraint. She believes that this is because the princess herself treated him badly in the past. The lady realizes that it could all end if he just left, but he continues to sit there, keeping a calm face, like a loyal vassal. Iklo is the main culprit of today's celebration, but instead of honors, he was made a laughingstock. All because the princess treats him with contempt, placing him below another concubine. And at the ball in his honor, she did not even deign to look at him. The girl knows that he is not just a concubine to her, but someone much more valuable. She approaches him and says that she has come to fulfill the role of his wife. In her mind, she understands that this is the least she can do for him. Then she reaches out her hand and asks him for a dance. The main character thinks that this will be enough. She tells the guy that she is not a very good dancer herself, so she hopes he will help her. Because she really needs him. Ria notices the gentleman smiling. Iklo replies that he is happy to try, and they begin to dance. The lady mentally notes that she has stepped on his foot for the 6th time. After that, she awkwardly reminds him that she warned him about her dancing skills. The gentleman turns to Her Highness and apologizes in advance for his rudeness. She calmly says that she forgives him and asks what rude thing he is going to do. The princess suddenly notices that her feet seem to be floating above the floor. He calmly replies that this was the intention. A huge gilded chandelier shines from the ceiling, bright light pours in from all sides, and aristocrats and princesses dance around. At that moment, the main character clearly understands one thing: she really is in another world. Eldria tells the gentleman that she used to think she only needed him. She took his devotion for granted. But now she understands that a relationship cannot exist on one side alone. The girl says that instead of always seeking his support, she should have become a support for him herself. Ikrat thanks her for her concern and assures her that she doesn't need to worry about him at all. The princess says that if he ever gets into trouble, he can call her anytime. And she will definitely come. Ria thinks about how she had been trying to come up with a way to quietly slip out of the ballroom. But who would have thought that the reason would be that she would simply drink too much and feel extremely tired? The lady notices Nadrika and realizes that he has been waiting for her all this time. The guy asks how the ball went. She replies that she managed to trample someone's feet and is sure that they are now badly swollen. The girl thanks the young man for allowing her to speak with Iklot. He replies that he saw how worried she was about him, which is why he made that decision. Rovia abruptly addresses Her Highness and asks why she did not come to him. Then he asks if she was with him at the ball and reminds her that he warned her not to trust him. The man says he waited for her for a very long time. He was sure that she would at least want to ask him some questions before meeting him again, and certainly before laughing carefree with him in front of everyone. The gentleman realizes that she never came. After that, he asks if he is not even allowed to do that. Ria calmly says that she trusts Iklo. Hearing this, the man asks in astonishment if he himself is not worthy of her trust. He admits that he wanted to change and tried his best. But it seems that all his efforts mean nothing to her. The princess immediately objects and says that this is not the case at all. Then Rovia offers to prove it right now and go with him. The girl asks Nadrika if he can wait a little while. After that, she leaves with the gentleman. The guy says he will wait for her in her room. The main character looks around in surprise and realizes that there really is a lake here, and this is the very place associated with the memories of the former princess. Rovia says that this is where they first met. The lady smiles slightly and asks if he is going to arrange an evening of memories. The man reminds her that she promised to prove that his efforts were not in vain. The lady thinks that every time he speaks so passionately about his feelings, she feels uncomfortable. After all, these feelings are not meant for her, but for the real princess. The main character says that this does not mean that she loves him. He replies that he expected exactly that answer. Then he takes her by the hand and asks if she remembers what she said to him here. Rovia recalls that evening and says that she called him too jealous and admitted that she liked it. After these words, he gently tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear. The young lady feels the atmosphere around her begin to enchant her. At that moment, the man gently touches her and is about to kiss her. Ria gently removes his hand. He asks if he really can't even kiss her, and if she truly finds him so repulsive. The princess says that he clearly did not bring her here for that reason. The man then reminds her that there was another person with them that evening, but of the two, she chose him. He mentions Odrin and asks if she really does not remember him. Hearing this, the main character has no idea what he is talking about. She becomes curious about who stood between her and Rovia. She even suggests that the princess may have had another concubine. The gentleman says that she chose him, but kissed someone else. This question has been bothering him all this time. He asks if she wanted to see him in despair and asks her to answer honestly because he wants to hear it from her. Rovia suggests saying that she chose him simply because she liked him more. At this moment, the young lady thinks that the Princess Rovia no longer exists. She doesn't know what to do. Perhaps she should apologize and say that she doesn't remember anything. But deep down, she feels that it would be best if he finally stopped living in the past and depending on that princess. It seems that this is exactly the answer he is waiting for. Ria says that it's true, because she really did like him better back then, and at that moment she thinks about how much she wants him to stop tormenting himself with doubts. The girl finds it strange that he doesn't answer. His silence seems too heavy and incomprehensible to her. She's about to touch him gently, but suddenly he grabs her hand sharply. Rovia utters the name Odrin Viod Cecilia. This is the name of the previous emperor, who fell into an eternal sleep 12 years ago, and he is sure that she could not have confused him, especially since she has never been here with him. The man abruptly asks who she is and demands an immediate answer. The girl cries out and asks him not to touch her. At that moment, she realizes she's been caught. The main character realizes that all this time she knew too little about this world. That is why she never allowed herself to relax for a second. But apart from Nadrika, Rovia was the person closest to her. Sooner or later, he was bound to notice something strange. She just thought it would happen much later. After a moment's hesitation, she says she has lost her memory. The gentleman replies that it is pointless. There is no point in talking about memory loss, because she is actually a completely different person. Hearing this, the girl realizes that he is absolutely sure of his words. Rovia asks if he scared her. Ria agrees and says that he is right. After that, she confesses that she is not the princess. At that moment, the man remembers how he first met her in the library. He was immediately charmed by her, and soon realized that he was irresistibly drawn to this girl. After that, Rovia began to court her, and gradually won her attention. His friends looked at him askance, but he didn't care. He rejoiced at each of their meetings. One day, the young man gathered a bouquet of flowers and went to see the lady. But the maid refused to let him in for a long time, explaining that the princess was busy. He was sure that today he would definitely see her. But when he entered, he saw the lady among other men. So he became her concubine, or rather, a nameless toy that she played with for a while, and then simply forgot about. The man was so angry that he was ready to take revenge. At this point, the main character asks what he is going to do. Will he tell everyone else about it? But he replies that he hasn't even thought about it. The girl doesn't understand why he made her open up. What he's going to get out of it. She thinks he just wanted to trick her into telling him the truth, and then blackmail her. The guy addresses Her Highness and takes a step closer. The lady cries out in fear and asks him not to come near her. She steps back, takes another step, and suddenly falls out of the boat into the water. Underwater, the young lady suddenly thinks about how quiet it is here. It's as if she is alone in the whole world. And a strange thought comes to her. Did the real her ever exist? Or has she always been a princess, and it's just a system error in her head that has filled her with someone else's memories? The girl wonders if she is just a system error. Perhaps her fate is to disappear one day or be erased from this world. But even if that is the case, she still wants to live. At that moment, Rovia, without a second thought, jumps into the water and saves the main character. After a while, he turns to the princess and admits that he didn't believe he could fall in love again. Like a naive fool. But then he realized he was wrong. He didn't fall in love with the princess. Ria understands that this is not true. He is trying to deceive her again. She asks if he truly loves her. First there was the princess, then Uriel, and now her. The young lady believes she has too many reasons not to trust him. But the guy assures her that he is not lying. He realized long ago that the princess and she are different people, and that doesn't scare or repel him at all. Eldria asks why her. Does one really need to love someone so much if it doesn't matter who it is? The man objects. He says that it's completely different. Only she could awaken such strong feelings in him. And then he asks, if it's not love, then what is it? The girl asks if he is sure that she is not just another temporary infatuation for him. The guy replies that he would like everything to be that simple. But that is not the case at all. The lady asks what exactly he wants from her. Does he demand that she accept his feelings? She warns him that blackmail will not work. Any word against her could turn against him. And she asks who will ultimately be believed. Ria warns him to be careful. Just because she doesn't send people to eternal sleep doesn't mean she's incapable of doing so. Rovia replies that she is too kind. The lady immediately asks what exactly he means by that. The man admits that his story about the order was a fabrication. But she sincerely felt sorry for him, tried to comfort him, and even asked about him. The young man says that she has a kind heart. The princess he knew before was never merciful. Hearing this, the main character realizes that she has been waiting for these words for a very long time. She was so afraid, she tried so hard to change the princess's reputation, and finally, she was called kind. The gentleman asks to be allowed to stay with her. He understands that she does not believe him, because his deception could have greatly confused her, but he asks her to at least believe that he is on her side, and to give him a chance to prove it. The princess says she cannot do that, but the guy replies that he will try to convince her anyway, and one day, he will make her feel sorry for him. The man adds that until then, he won't demand anything, and will never touch her without permission. Still, he asks her to let him hug her, at least now. The girl can't help thinking that maybe Rovia has been preparing for this conversation for a long time. She asks if he is afraid of her, but the young man calmly replies that she is charming, and he is not afraid of her. The lady recalls his words that she is not a real princess. She realizes that she hid the truth, even from Nadrika, who was devoted to the princess, finding comfort in his arms. Ria thinks about how she felt guilty because of Edson's emotional trauma, but she still continued to play the role of the ruthless Eldria in front of him. The princess accepted the care and attention of the noble Iklot as if she had every right to do so, although she understood perfectly well that in reality she was just a fake Eldria. The main character realizes that since she arrived in this world, only now has she been able to be herself for the first time. Nadrika looks at the lady and notices that she has returned completely soaked. The lady quietly asks if he is asleep. The boy replies that he is not. Then she says she has something important to tell him. At that moment, she thinks that he is the first person who deserves to know the truth. She has to tell him everything right now, even if it hurts him. She doesn't want to keep lying anymore. The girl doesn't know where to start or how to explain it all to him. The young man suggests that she just look at him. Then he quietly says that if it's too hard for her, she doesn't have to tell him anything. The princess admits that she lied to him. She didn't lose her memories. In fact, she is simply a different person. And she is not at all the princess he remembers. Nadrika calmly says that he already knew this. Hearing this, the main character asks in surprise if he really knew. But she is even more concerned about another question. How long ago did he realize this? The young man explains that he understood everything on the very day they first met. That's when she took his hands. A real princess would never have done that. Hearing this, Ria asks why he didn't say anything to her. And if he knew the truth from the very beginning, then why did he help her? Nadrika replies that at first he thought he was just able to catch his breath a little, as if he had escaped from hell for a short time. But over time, he began to pray that it would last forever. The young man admits that he was afraid every time she fell asleep. Every morning he wondered if the other princess had returned. He was tormented by doubts and superstitious fears. It seemed to him that if he spoke the truth aloud, she would disappear and vanish somewhere far away, where he would never be able to reach her. The young man asks if she wants to know why he helped her. Then he kisses her hand and says that she already knows the answer. By the way, he noticed that Rovia is also beginning to guess something. The lady realizes that he is very observant. The guy says that it is she, not the princess, who has captured his heart. He adds that Rovia has been watching her closely all this time, and he is smart enough to reveal the truth. But there is not the slightest desire in his mind to harm her. Nadrika asks if she is thinking of accepting him or if she is still unsure. Then, unexpectedly, he advises her to accept him after all. The girl is surprised and asks why he is telling her this. Is it because she is a real princess? The young man immediately replies that this is not the case at all. The lady asks if she has become a burden to him. He admits that he is afraid because she is constantly in danger and he is too weak to protect her. The young man says that it hurts him to look at her and realize his own powerlessness. After these words, he hugs her and cannot hold back his tears. Then he asks her not to delay and to accept the offer, because this gentleman could become her ally. Nadrika asks the lady to take care of herself for his sake. He says that he would not be able to survive if he lost her, because she is the most important woman in the world to him, and he cherishes her above all else. Uriel comes to the gentleman. He asks how she is doing and immediately hugs her. The girl replies that she is tolerating it, and then asks how the woman is doing. The man asks why she keeps talking about her. Uriel replies irritably that now she can't even ask about her. After all, it is because of that woman that she now lives in a dirty and miserable hovel. Uriel says that because of her, her whole life has gone to ruin, and he has never stood up for her. If he really loves her, he should finally do something. The girl asks if he has lost his voice. Maybe he no longer cares about her. Or maybe he is just silent because he has nothing to say. The gentleman replies that she has always been dear to him and nothing has changed now. But the girl cries out and asks him to finally see what a pitiful situation she is in. Uriel says that an ordinary maid, who was simply getting in the way, was kicked out of the palace. For him, a former member of the royal family, this seems trivial. Edson says she knows very well that he doesn't think so. In response, she asks if she should now thank him as well. The man says that she was expelled through her own fault. But the lady objects and replies that she did nothing special, and he speaks as if he were a saint himself. She continues to say that all people make mistakes. Only some live peacefully and happily afterwards, while others can only complain about their fate. Now she finds herself among the latter. But she is not at all satisfied with her situation and has no intention of leaving things as they are. At this moment, the guy wonders if the woman standing in front of him is really the one he once loved. Back then, he was angry, confused, and didn't trust anyone. She was the only person who kept him from drowning in despair, shame, and hatred. Uriel says he will never forgive her. But Edson suggests simply forgetting about the princess. He says they could go somewhere far away and live far from the palace. The gentleman says that he has officially become a knight and will now receive a salary. This money would be enough even for an aristocrat to live comfortably somewhere on the outskirts. Edson realizes that this is quite enough for him. At that moment, he remembers the words of the princess, who asked him to forget and keep his distance. Not too far, and not too close, but just enough so that everyone could go their own way. Uriel asks if he is really suggesting that she forgive that woman. She asks if he is laughing at her. The guy reminds her that he was only saying that it was better to forget, and then asks what has come over her. The girl thinks that he is acting as if he has already forgiven the princess. In her eyes, he looks like a noble fool, even in his hatred. And this thought makes her feel almost sick. Uriel realizes that he has been like this since they first met. He was willing to be trampled by the princess for the sake of his people, and he would have agreed without hesitation to give up his life just to protect her. The girl thinks that since he is such a devoted knight and has devoted himself to her, he should now do whatever she commands him to do. Edson says he understands her feelings, but he admits that she is the only one for him. So he suggests again that they leave everything as it is and just leave. Hearing this, the lady asks who wants that anyway, and since when have they been doing only what is convenient for him? Uriel reminds him not to forget her true nature. She says she likes to play games and manipulate people, and who can guarantee that the princess won't do the same to them one day? The girl cries out and asks if he still doesn't understand. If the princess changes her mind and says one word, it will be the end for both of them. She asks if he really hopes that the princess will let them live. The guy thinks it's possible. After all, even Uriel, who seemed unchanging, has changed over time. The princess has changed too, and he himself is no longer the person he used to be. Then the girl says that if he doesn't believe her, he should just put this woman into an eternal sleep for her sake. Then they can run away together and forget everything. At this point, a system notification appears. It informs her that her request exceeds the acceptable limit for Edson Villota. If he does not withdraw it, the interest level will be permanently reduced by 80%. If she cancels the request, no changes will occur. However, the lost interest level will not be restored. She is presented with response options: maintain the interest level or accept the penalty. Uriel says he doesn't require her to do it right now, but he must be ready to do so at any moment. Edson thinks that he is the one who ruined her. The girl hugs him and says that he must take responsibility for it. At that moment, she thinks that she does not know how and why she ended up here, but she must win. Nadrika wakes up and cries out in surprise, apologizing. He says he slept longer than Her Highness. The princess replies that she didn't want to wake him. Yesterday he cried too much and was very tired. The lady says that she has a meeting this morning about territorial negotiations. She has studied hard for this, but she is still not sure if she can handle such responsibility. Nadrika confidently says that she will definitely succeed. If it's Ria, then everything should work out for her. The lady thanks him, kisses him, and says that she will quickly take care of all her business and return soon. The main character thinks she said it confidently, but in the morning, when she struggled to open her eyes, she realized that she was very tired. A sharp headache and heaviness in her body reminded her of something very familiar from her past life. The emperor proposes to begin the meeting. The main topic of discussion is territorial negotiations with the Kingdom of Born. At this moment, the girl thinks that she seems to have just caught a cold. In fact, this meeting is an official gathering where she is acting as the person in charge, and she intends to use this opportunity to achieve what she has in mind. Ria says that before discussing the main topic, she wants to clarify one issue. She is concerned that Sir Faces was not among those awarded for military merit. She asks what explains such injustice. The princess realizes that this is where the answer lies as to why Ikoda was not at the victory ball. The minister asks if he is not Her Highness's concubine. He says that concubines cannot be granted titles or land. This is an old tradition, and it arose for a reason. The main character thinks that, as far as she remembers, he is the chancellor of this country. She then asks what exactly are the reasons behind this tradition. The marquis replies that it would be difficult to govern the state if power were in the hands of a concubine. He then turns to Her Highness and asks if she really wants to reward Sir Faces. The gentleman suggests choosing something for him from among the luxury items that are usually permitted to be given to concubines. At this moment, the princess thinks that he is talking to her as if she were a capricious child demanding something unreasonable. She replies that she is talking about a reward that a person who has made a huge contribution to their country's victory deserves. The lady says that he probably considers her words to be just another whim in the game of love. She asks if this is not the case. After these words, complete silence reigns in the hall. The minister replies that only His Majesty the Emperor can decide on the granting of land or titles. His Majesty says that he is here today only as an observer. Therefore, he will not interfere in the discussion and leaves the decision on this matter to the princess. The lady thanks His Majesty. Then she asks if she has understood the minister correctly. Surely he does not deny the importance of Sir Faces' military achievements. Deep down, she is sure that he would not dare to say such a thing. Iklut, at the head of a large army, broke through to the very heart of the enemy country. He occupied a strategically important height and thus forced the enemy to sign a surrender agreement. His personal participation in battles repeatedly boosted the morale of the army. This is what led their troops to numerous victories. The gentleman addresses Her Highness and offers to hear her personal opinion on the matter. After that, he invites Iklo to come forward. At this moment, the main character recalls how, just recently, he humiliated Iklat, declaring that he had no right to interfere in state affairs. And now, suddenly, he himself demands to hear his opinion. The minister asks if he wants to receive land and a title for his military service, despite existing traditions. The princess immediately realizes that there is something insidious about this question. He asked it deliberately, knowing in advance what the answer would be. The young lady understands that Iklat would never demand a reward for his deeds, especially not publicly in front of everyone. Therefore, he will almost certainly have to refuse. The girl reflects that she expected him to defend tradition, but his silence speaks of something else entirely. It seems that he simply has no intention of objecting to her. The princess says she also wants to ask a question. Then she shows the book and asks if anyone present is familiar with it. It describes in detail everything that happened during the war, all the pain and cruelty of each battle. Eldria continues, saying that the book also describes the valor of Sir Faces. It was he who, at the cost of enormous effort, brought victory to their country. And if they forget their heroes, the people may one day lose their loyalty to their rulers. The main character asks if they will continue to claim that they do not recognize his merits. One of the gentlemen replies that this diary of the clerk was not listed among the documents presented at the meeting. The princess says that after reading this book, she realized how enormous Sir Faces' influence was on the outcome of the war. She then asks his subordinates if they can confirm this. The knights agree with her and confidently say that everything she said is the absolute truth. The lady loudly declares that this is precisely why she demands that Sir Faces' merits be recognized, and to reward him as his deeds truly deserve. The princess addresses the gentlemen present and asks whether they still insist on their opinion after everything they have heard. One of the gentlemen replies that he does not deny Faces' merits, but awarding him the prize could still cause serious difficulties. At that moment, a woman enters the hall. She addresses the Duke and asks if he is speaking too loudly. She has heard that he already has 10 concubines, a luxurious estate, and vast lands. The black-haired lady continues, saying that there are so many rumors about his wealth that soon one might think he could turn even the sea into his own private pond. She then asks what he has done to deserve so much. Icarus asks in surprise why she is here. The woman approaches the princess, greets Her Highness, and introduces herself. She says she is Sir Faces' deputy. Her name is Courant Faces. The Duke indignantly asks what she thinks she is doing. The princess calmly replies that his words imply that he recognizes Sir Faces' exploits. She then asks if it is only Iklat's status that bothers him. Ria continues and says that if he were not her concubine, he would receive true recognition and a reward worthy of a war hero. Then she asks if she understands the situation correctly. The Duke reluctantly agrees. Then the princess announces that if his status is the only obstacle, she will strip Iklat Faces of his status as a concubine right here and now, in the presence of the emperor. The man informs his master that he seems to have completely lost his head over a woman named Uriel. So far, there has been only one suspicious action. She was visited by a maid, with whom she probably communicated while serving in the palace. The master asks if it is possible to find out the name of this maid. The servant replies that it will be easier if she shows up again. In the meantime, he will try to find out what they are talking about. Rovia orders that absolutely everything be reported to him, without omitting even the smallest detail. When Edson notices the gentleman, he asks in surprise what he is doing there. In response, he calmly says that he has come to find out why he has not yet fled. Rovia asks if he really stays in this hated country of his own free will. He adds that he would like to hear at least one convincing reason. The gentleman asks if he is hiding some intention. The prince replies that he has no right to question him. Then Rovia asks if Uriel is keeping him here. Edson replies irritably that it's none of his business, and that he loves to stick his nose into other people's business too much. The blonde-haired young man asks if he still doesn't understand that she is plotting something. He wonders if Edson really doesn't notice anything or is just pretending. Edson sharply orders him to shut up. But the young man calmly asks if he still trusts her. The gentleman says that it's not about who Uriel is, and it's not about why he didn't leave her himself. Hearing this, the guy asks in surprise if he left her, and then he says that she was never really his to begin with. Rovia replies that if he really loves her, he must leave her at any cost, and not to do anything reckless himself if he cares about her highness. At this point, the main character thinks that the meeting is finally over. She tried not to show how she was feeling, but now she realizes that she feels much worse than she did in the morning. However, the girl realizes that the main thing is that she managed to convince those present. Iklota's title has been restored, and the issue of territories has been resolved. True, she did not expect such open resistance. Without that book, it would have been very difficult for her. The main character recalls how the maid told her in the morning that a knight had been causing a commotion since dawn. He insists that he must see the princess. When he appeared before her, the man immediately knelt down. He introduced himself as Dacis and said that during the war he had been a clerk for Lord Iklot and his army. The knight addressed her highness and said that she must see this book. Eldria recalls how, at the last moment, she had to read the protocol and quickly decide what to do next. Now she just wants to get to her room as soon as possible, before anyone notices that she is not feeling well. At that moment, Iklot stops the princess and asks why she did that. The girl is surprised, because she did not see him during the meeting and thought that he had left earlier with the Marquise of Facy. The gentleman asks if she has decided to leave him. The lady explains that he has misunderstood. She never intended to leave him, neither before, nor now, nor in the future. Then she asks if he does not believe her. Iklo answers that he believes her. Then the lady asks why he thought otherwise. He says that she deprived him of his status as a hostage. Ria explains that she did this to thank him for his loyalty and the oath he gave her. The princess asks if he is not happy about this. Now he can restore his position in society and get everything he truly deserves. Ria says that Sir Defet will surely be delighted. She has heard that Ikrat was his student. Perhaps after this he will even stop hating her. But then she realizes that she has said something she did not mean to say and tries to find the right words. The main character realizes that the high temperature is making it increasingly difficult for her to think clearly. The lady admits that she honestly does not understand what exactly he did not like about her decision. It seemed to her that their relationship was too complicated and contradictory. She just wanted to start over and thought it would be better for him. After that, she quietly asks if she was wrong. Iklo immediately replies that she was not wrong. Then he says that it was his own choice.